This headlamp is going to be the new king of headlamps for backpackers and outdoor adventures. And today I'm going to be telling you all about it, as well as a bunch of new gear that I've gotten my hands on, including some gear that's not going to be released until 2025, like this tent behind me. These are my very first impressions of this gear, and I'm going to explain to you guys why I'm really excited to be testing out some of it, and why for others I'm a little bit worried. The first item is that headlamp. It's the Nightore Nu20 Classic. I'm pretty sure this is everything that everyone had hoped the Nu25 version 2 would have been. It's very lightweight at 34 grams with the modified head strap that I put on here. I had to modify the head strap because I really don't like the ones that Nightore is including with their ultralight headlamps. It's just a little bit finicky, a little bit bulky, and gets tangled up really easily. So I basically do the Nightore mod on it, where I tie a piece of shot cord and then tie it off about halfway up the strap, and then just put a little toggle on there in order to tighten it up. You have 360 lumens, which is gonna be bright enough for most people out there. It has a 1 lumen mode, which is what I know a lot of people were kind of complaining about that the Nu25 didn't have. And then the buttons are way simpler than the Nu25. You have just one button for turning on the white light, then you have a second button for the red light. So you do have a red light mode, which is great for a small headlamp like this. So if you're using it around camp and it's nighttime, or you're using it in a tent with other people, you're not going to be disturbing them quite as much as if you're using the white light. And then to top it all off, you have USB-C charging on this port here. So really everything that you could want with an ultralight headlamp is in the Nu20 Classic. The name kind of sucks. I don't know why they're calling it the Classic, but this is what I think most people are going to be using moving forward, and the Nu25 is going to be collecting dust on the shelves. I have a couple of new power banks from Nightore as well. This is the version 3 of the NB1000, one of the most popular ultralight power banks out there. It's still basically the same. It uses a carbon fiber shell that seems to be maybe a little bit more robust. They reinforce a lot of the spots that people were having issues with, and it's still lightweight, still costly at $65. The big change is that it now has 2 USB-C ports. So they're moving away from having one USB-C, one USB-A port, which is great because most of my cables are now just USB-C. The other power bank is what I'm really excited about though. It's 6,000 milliamp hours, so has a decent capacity and is insanely ultralight at 89 grams. This thing is gonna be what I think most people are gonna be using when they're going on ultralight trips from now on. It only has one USB-C port, so that might be a deal breaker for some people, but you can use a splitter with it. And just overall, 89 grams for 6,000 milliamp hours is nuts. This is a pretty cool little power bank now, and only costs $40. Another one of the pieces of gear is an ultralight rain jacket from Rockfront, which is a Ukrainian company. This jacket has a lot of really cool features with it. It's only 158 grams, so very lightweight, but it's also very affordable at $60. And that's because of the material that it's made out of. It's using a sil nylon material, so it's silicone coated nylon on the outside and then a PU coating on the inside. So it's not breathable at all, but it's very waterproof. And the way they get around the non-breathability is that it has a lot of ventilation. So you have one big chest zipper going down the middle here, and then you have 2 gigantic vents that go all the way from basically halfway up the arm all the way down to your hips. You can just open this up like a poncho basically and dump a lot of heat really quickly. I think mechanical ventilation like that is way more effective than breathability, because a lot of the time jackets are wetting out and the breathability factor decreases a whole lot really quickly. The last 2 items are new items from MSR that are going to be coming out in the spring of 2025, and they're items that I'm a little bit unsure of. The first one is a new all-in-one stove system called the Switch, and it's doing some cool things. First of all, it's using cork instead of neoprene for the gripper and to keep your hands from burning, which is a lot more sustainable than neoprene. And then they're also using this new patent pending conical system on the bottom here instead of a heat exchanger. So making it a curved bottom allows it to have more surface area contact with the flame of the stove without having to use a heat exchanger. And it also makes it a little bit easier to clean on the inside because you don't have any corners on the inside for food to get stuck in. The stove part of this all-in-one system is also really interesting. It's basically a pocket rocket too, but with a piezo igniter and then this ring around the top here so that the pot can slot in on top of it. But then you also have arms that can flip up, and you can use kind of any stove or pan that you want with it, which is a nice feature. With these all-in-one systems, a lot of the time you're kind of limited to what you can use with them, and sometimes with like jet boils, you're limited to only being able to use the pot that comes with it. So it's nice to see that you can use this stove with any other kind of pot or pan that you want to. Where I'm kind of on the fence about this system, because I do think all-in-one systems are great for a lot of new backpackers out there, is the price and the weight. It weighs 392 grams, so it's not a very lightweight system, and it costs $140, which is a lot more expensive compared to some of the other all-in-one systems that are coming to the market now, like the Fire Maple Petrol paired with a Green Peak stove. That being said, I do like that MSR is trying some new things with this pot, putting out some patents there. Patents are always fun to see, and if they drop the price down to $100, then I think maybe we're getting into that realm of it being a good buy for a lot of people. So keep an eye out for sales, I guess, if this is something that interests you. That brings us to the new iteration of the MSR Hubba, probably one of the most iconic tents that's ever been out there. I'm both excited and a little bit nervous about this tent, because in the past, I've hated Hubba tents. I found them to be overpriced for what you get. They've just not had the most efficient room inside of them. It's been difficult to fit two 25-inch wide pads. The way the pole structure worked on previous versions meant that you always had material right in your face when you're lying down. And I just did not like them. I just thought they're kind of overbuilt, overpriced, and just not that comfortable to live in. But I might be changing my mind with this new version, because MSR addressed a lot of my concerns. First of all, there's a lot more mesh on this tent, which is great for a 3-season tent because it's going to increase ventilation, decrease condensation buildup on those inner walls, and just be a lot cooler and easier to use. The previous Hubba versions were great if you're using them kind of all year round, but I don't think that's the case for most people out there. And the additional mesh is very nice to see. Another thing that they did, which was a long time coming, is that they made the vents on either end of the tent a lot bigger. So instead of just being like 6 inches wide, they're the entire width of that back panel, which makes it so that you're getting a lot more ventilation flowing through the tent, especially when paired with that extra mesh. They also made the tent bigger, so this tent can now fit two 26-inch wide sleeping pads, which is going to pair nicely with some new pads that are coming from Thermarest. You also get this really nice brow pole. They've kept extending that brow pole more and more, and now it's this really nice length, so you get full coverage over the sides of the tent. So if it is raining straight down, you can leave the doors open, get that ventilation, have those views, and you're not going to have rain getting inside the tent. You also have really nice doors on this tent, so the zipper goes all the way down to the corner here, so it's easy to open and close it while you're sitting inside the tent, inside the vestibule. That brings us to the downsides, and the first one is that the doors don't fully roll open, so there's no seam here in order to roll this door all the way back, so you always have to have the doors halfway open. And then the second thing that I'm not thrilled about is the material that the tent's made out of. The Hubba is still using a sil nylon material for the fly here, and sil nylon, in my experience, just sags when wet, it stretches, and it's just not the best material for tents. I really like what Nemo's doing with the Osmo fabric and then the polyester fabric that we're seeing with some other tents like from Durston Gear. Go check out this video if you want to see some new cutting edge gear that I'm testing out on a trip, including a new pack from Z-Packs.